Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the next Writing Power Hour. And I'm going to turn the music off because I had a little bit of a mishap here. So, hope everybody's doing fantastic. Another week. We're already into August, and it's crazy. It's second Power Hour. This is the second and final Power Hour we're going to have in August, but we're going to have another one, and we're going to have two in September. So, thank you to everyone who showed up. I was a good author today and remembered to email people on my email list. So hopefully some folks start trickling in here. The email went out, I think, about 5-10 minutes ago. So welcome. For those of you who are new here, be sure to let me know that you're new. I would love to say hello and welcome to Writing Power Hour. So we do have some new faces. I saw a few comments that said there are some new folks here. So just want to give everybody a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing. So for the next 90 minutes, we are going to be writing like heck to write as many words as we can toward our work in progress. I do these Power Hours normally the first Saturday of each month at 10 o'clock Central Time. And it's a great opportunity for me to connect with all of you, encourage all of you. We can encourage each other. And what we do is for the first 5-7 minutes or so of the podcast, we just kind of shoot the breeze. Everybody tells me what they're working on. I tell you what I'm working on, any special announcements, anything like that. And then what we do is we go into a writing sprint. So I put a timer up on the screen. We write as much as possible. You just see my face. The camera is trained on my face the whole time. There's always somebody that comes in about 15 minutes that asks, what is he doing? What's going on? Help a brother out. Let folks know in the comments. We're supposed to be writing. And then at the end of that 20 minutes, I come back on and I answer any questions that you have about writing, self-publishing. I want to know how you did. I encourage you to share your word count, all that good stuff. So anytime someone tells me that they're new, I always like to go over that just because I think it's a good idea. So welcome to our new folks here. All right. Let's see. Blessed or Messy says, good morning. How are you doing? I am doing fantastic, Blessed or Messy. I'm glad that I woke up this morning, and I'm glad that I'm almost at the end of my current novel. So I'm writing a novel called Cold Hard Magic. It is The Good Necromancer, Book 2, and I'm almost done. I'm literally almost done. I'm in the middle of the final battle, and I got 46,000 words toward the novel, and it's supposed to be about 50. So I could finish today. I don't know, but I will certainly finish by tomorrow. All right, let's see here. All right, we got a lot of comments coming in, so it's going to be one of those mornings here. All right, Mike, good morning from Pacific Midwest, working on a sci-fi project at 15K words so far. Fantastic. And let's see. And Ty. Hello, Ty. Welcome. Hello, Lolo. And Olkesh says, thanks for the reminder email. Yeah, I always hate to clog people's inboxes, especially with a live stream that they may not even be able to go to, but some people wrote me last time and said that was very helpful. All right. Carbitoria Libraia. Hope I said that right. It's my second time. Welcome, second time. The first time I managed to write something for the first time in a long time. Well, that is fantastic. I remember you said that last time, so that's really good news. And Michelle, hello, welcome, Michelle Alicia. Welcome to have you on board. Hope you get a lot of writing in today. And let's see. Okay. Question. This question is so good, it's almost as if I planted it, Blessed or Messy. So how is your speaking engagements going? That is the question. They're actually going pretty good. I have one coming up next Saturday for Writer's Digest. I'm doing a craft workshop. It's only about 45 minutes to an hour. It's called, I think it's called the top secrets of the 1% of writers, like mega bestsellers. Basically, I turned my writing craft playbook into a speech. So I'm going to be giving that at Writer's Digest next week. And then I'm also speaking at the Writer's Digest Novel Conference. So Writer's Digest has 2 conferences a year. They do their annual conference and then they do their novel conference. At least I think it's at least 2 conferences per year. And I am speaking at their novel conference, which is supposed to be in Pasadena, California. I don't know with COVID if I'll be out in Pasadena, California, but if I am, I'll let folks know that I'll be out there. But more than likely, it's probably going to be virtual with the Delta variant kind of being what it is. But yeah, so I'm speaking there, and I'm doing a speech on writing apps of all things. So I'm going to be doing a speech called Writing App Speed Dating. So I'm going to go over like the top writing apps in the industry, let people kind of survey them, see what they like, and go over some of the best features. So I'm looking forward to that. So speaking engagements are going very well. And then I'm going to be on Maddie Dalrymple's podcast, the Indie Author Podcast, early September. I think we're recording next week. But if you haven't followed Maddie, she does a great podcast. It's called the Indie Author, Indie with a Y, indieauthor.com. All right. Okay, let's see. Loretta says, "Congrats on the novel. Get her done." Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. Oh, and I forgot to tell everybody. And we're going a little long here, but it's okay. I forgot to tell everybody. Thank you for those of you who voted for my next Beast Mode book. So all of you voted for me, or most of you, I should say, voted for me to write Cold Hard Magic, which is the Good Necromancer book 2. I opened up voting earlier this week, and then many of you weighed in. And my next book, if you haven't read the announcement, it is going to be How to Write a Novel Without Outlining. I know that's going to be a hot topic on this this part of the web here, because every Power Hour, everybody's always asking me, how do you write a novel without an outline? I always get writing into the dark questions. So I'm going to be taking a lot of those questions and putting them into this book. And I should be starting to write that as soon as Monday or Tuesday. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right. Okay, Carvitoria says I said the name right. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we got a lot of new people here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm seeing some more questions come in. I'm going to flag those, and I'll answer those after our first sprint here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so everybody, what we're going to do? It's time. It is that time to get the timer in the corner of the screen, and it's time to start our first word sprint. All right, so 20 minutes. I'm going to start the timer here in a second. I'm going to go on mute. You can do whatever you want to do. Write, edit, outline, whatever trips your trigger. And then when that 20-minute counter comes down to 0, I'll come back on, answer any questions that you have, and I invite all of you to share your word counts. All right, so don't forget to put question in front of your comment so I can see it a little bit easier. And let's get off to the races, folks. Happy writing. All right, everybody, about 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left before we regroup. Don't be afraid, or don't forget to put your word counts in the comments. All right, everybody. Hope everyone had a great writing session. Let me know in the comments. How did you do? How many words did you get down? I got down about 439. That puts me around, I think, 600 for the day. So let me know how you are doing. And while you're doing that, I will take a look at some of these questions. So let's see here. Okay, the first question comes from Okesh. What do you think to using crowdfunding websites like Patreon to release short stories to generate money to pay for a cover prior to putting them into a collection to sell on Amazon or Wide? That is a really interesting question, Olkesh. Here's my take on crowdfunding. I have a Patreon page. I like crowdfunding. I have no concerns with it. My thing, and this is maybe just a Michael Laron thing. I don't know. I'm a big fan of crowdfunding things that are going to bring value to your audience. I'm not so sure about crowdfunding something that the audience probably expects you to already pay for. Right. So if your goal is, hey, support me on Patreon, here's what you're going to get as a result, I think it's totally cool. If it's support me on Patreon because I'm raising money to pay for my first book, I don't know. I think readers have a little bit of an aversion to that unless there's, you know, I think readers expect people to do that. But certainly, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, honestly. I think it's just on how you message it, right? So I would make sure that people who patronize you, or not patronize you, that's kind of a weird word to say it. People who give you money, make sure that they get something of value. Maybe it's a behind the scenes look at the short story or something like that. Just sweeten the pot for them. But I've seen a lot of people be pretty successful on Patreon. Okay, Hunter asks, should I query 2 or more agents prior to our conference? It is now a virtual online due to the Delta variant. Hunter, can you give me a little bit more context? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you talking about um, querying agents to like get your book published, or are you talking about something else? Just give me a little bit more context and I'll follow up. Okay, Lolo asks, how do you refrain from editing while you're writing the first draft? Sheer mental willpower. That's what I would say, Lolo. Um, everyone's different. I'm not going to sit here and say that my way is the best way. I try to write everything in one draft, and that's mainly because I just know that I have that urge sometimes to want to go back and edit things. And, unfortunately, when you're editing, you're not writing. And so sheer willpower is the way to do it. But if you find that that's your personality type, you can't help yourself, then lean into that and figure out how you can accomplish the editing while you're writing at the same time. I don't know what that looks like for you, but I think what a lot of people do is they try to resist their own personality urges. And if that's a personality urge for you, just find a way to make it work. It doesn't really matter as long as you're productive. I found, just for me, sheer willpower is the easiest way to avoid that, though. Okay. Gonna get rid of some of these questions that I've answered already. Okay. Admire Kashiri, when watching you write, it makes me feel bad that I've not written anything for like 3 months. No, don't feel bad, my friend. That's not why I do this. I do this to try to encourage people to get back on the horse, so to speak, if you haven't been able to write. So it's never too late to start writing. Never feel like you're behind on anything. Write when you're able to do it. And the great thing is you can always pick up the pencil again. You can always sit back down at the keyboard and pick up where you left off. And that's one of the reasons I do these broadcasts. Okay. Precious asks, how should I write my series where 2 main characters are in 2 different worlds and show their perspective of relation to the other? That's a really interesting question, Precious. I have not done that in a novel, so I don't know. What I would do is I would ask around and see if there's any novels that are similar to that and figure out how that author accomplished that. Never plagiarize or steal anything from anyone, but if you can kind of see the general feel of some of the tactics and the tricks that author used to keep people attached and reading the story, that could be helpful for you. But I think the big thing is, from at least what you're saying, is just making sure that the reader always knows where they are in the story, like whose world they're in. If the world is slightly different, or if there's details that are different in one world versus the other, just be careful with the way that you present information to the reader so that everything is always clear where they are and where they are in time. That would be my tip. All right, Travis asks, do you submit a proposal to speak at Writer's Digest, or are you invited? Mixture of both. I think the first time I submitted a proposal, and if you do a good job at a venue, they invite you back. So, all right, let's see how everyone did, because we're a little bit over here. Okay, I'm going to follow up on Hunter. Querying agents to get a book published traditionally. Everything is now upside down again. Yeah, Hunter, I am a self-published guy. I'm probably not the right guy to ask about traditional publishing. If you do want to go that route, just do your homework and make sure you understand the contracts that you're signing, and make sure you're going with a reputable literary agent. That's really all I can tell you there. Okay, so we had some more questions come in, but what I want to do is just see how everyone's doing. How did we do on word counts? Blessed or Messy 607. Tex Vet Jeb 265. All right, great. Celinda 784. Nice job. Frank 231. Travis 136. Lolo 504. Michelle 641. Great first session for Power Hour. And Ty 465. And everyone's doing great. I can't read everyone's now, but fantastic job, everybody. So, all right. I'm just going to tee up remaining questions here. And don't forget, if you have a question, just type in question in all caps, : That makes it easier for me to see it. Yep. Okay. So I'm just kind of going through. Okay. Oh, Aubrey, to answer the question on by Precious, Aubrey says Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell has several main characters that never meet but are interconnected. So, a very popular novel that might be of some help to you. Okay, so everybody, it's that time again. Let's jump into our second writing sprint. And as a reminder, if people have questions, I know a lot of people have questions. I can't always get to them as soon as you ask them. I will stay on the broadcast until I've answered everyone's questions. So don't worry, I will make sure all your questions get answered. So it is approximately 10:35 a.m. right now. Let's jump into our next session. So we'll come back at 10:55 a.m. Clock starts now. Have a good writing session. All right, everybody, about 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left to debrief. Don't forget to share your word count. All right, everybody. Second writing sprint is done. Post your word count in the comments and would love to know how everyone did. But first, let's go over questions and see what everyone's asking. Celinda asks, where is the book voting going on? I've wanted to vote, but I seem to miss them every time. Thank you for asking that question, Celinda. First, to kind of put some context on the question, I'm in the middle of my Beast Mode challenge. For those who don't know, my goal is to write as many books as humanly possible between July 1st and October 15th. I extended the Beast Mode a little bit. And so the the trick, or the not trick, but the quirk, or the twist, I should say, of this Beast Mode this year is that I'm letting all of you vote on which books that I write next. So I start writing a book, and then once I get to about the 80% mark, I open up voting so that you can vote on my next book, so that when I'm done with the current book, I can jump into the book that you all want me to write. Very long-winded way of saying I'm just letting you vote for the books that I write. And so when I'm opening up these voting sessions, Celinda, I'm doing it on my YouTube community tab, authorlevelup.com/community. You can see it there. I also am sharing it on my Twitter profile, so twitter.com/Michael Laron. And then I'm also sharing it on Facebook. So Facebook.com/author level up. Those are the three different ways that you can do it. I do promote I leave the polls open for about 48 hours, and I will promote it regularly. So I talk about it on the blog every night that the polls open, and then I talk about it on socials every day that the polls open as well. So I also share it with my patrons. If you happen to be a patron, patrons get that as well. So that's where you can find the voting sessions. So I'm excited about writing a book on how to write without an outline. I know that's going to be a hot topic. I know a lot of you have asked me for that, and so I'm not thinking it's going to take me very long. So, Celinda, I wouldn't be surprised if, very soon I end up opening up voting again. because I'll probably fly through that one. Okay. Carbertoria says or asks, have you ever had 2 or more characters that you ended up merging into one? I think I'm going to have to do that, but I'm not sure how. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking back on all the novels I've written, and I don't think I've ever had a situation where I've had situations where I had multiple characters and then I ended up having to cut them. It feels like lately one of my biggest problems I'm dealing with is that I have a ton of people on stage. I'm the scene I'm writing right now. I've probably got like 6 people. It's like, how do you keep track of all these people throughout a scene? And there's some tricks you can use to do that. But I've never had to merge characters. I've had to split. Once I had a character that I had to split them into 2. That was interesting, and so the biggest challenge was making them distinct. I think in your case, if you're going to merge 2 characters into one, it's just going to require some careful details to make sure that maybe you can truly merge them into one character, maybe not. And so just be cognizant of what you end up leaving behind, because I find that sometimes when you have to make decisions like that, sometimes you'll write and edit it, but then once you get to the editor will be like, wait a minute. You had this person as a he, but you're saying it's a she now, stuff like that. So it would be something I would be cognizant of. Okay. Ruth asks, I love the music that you use in the run up to the Power Hours. Well, thank you. Can I find extended versions somewhere? I get all the music for this show on Epidemic Sounds. So there's a very specific style of music that I like to do for this. You could call it like laid back hip hop, or it's all kind of got the same rhythm, beats per minute. I just happen to like that. I like the voices that sound like chipmunks. I don't know why. That's just my thing. I just like that. I don't know why. If I'm showing my age there, but anyway, Epidemic Sounds is where you can get them. I think you can. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you can. In fact, I think you can stream. I think some of the people that are from Epidemic Sounds, you can like stream them. So like you can stream them on like Apple Music. Like I'm looking at some of the titles, like the ones that I played this morning. Dusty Decks, that was the first song. Actually, I have a couple of songs from Dusty Decks. So Dusty and then Decks, Decks, and then Just Normal, all one word. And then Gustav. So Gustav, like Gustav, but it's 2 U's and 2 V's. Those are some of the people. So yeah, good luck. And I enjoy the music as well. Okay. Wyland says, and I think it's an important comment, I took this entire time so far just to get my ancient laptop to boot up. It happens. That's all good. When you're writing a lot, the key is to try to find ways to get around that. If you can boot your computer up before or after, so just a productivity thing. But I think it's a very important comment because we all have those computer issues. They all happen. Okay, let's see. Oh, there were some comments in relation to one of the comments last time. Balestra Messi says, I find it helps when the timer gets down to 5 minutes to double down and write faster and harder. My biggest word count boost came in the last 5 minutes. That's a great tip. I love that. I think that's a great idea. Something I've always I've done as well is I always like to push. So if I'm in the last 30 seconds, okay, yeah, the tendency is to kind of level off a little bit, but I try to get as much as I can in that last 30 seconds, just it's almost like weightlifting, or exercising. You try to push yourself as far as you can. Okay. And then Rathiri says there's the technique of rereading what you did the previous day and doing a bit of editing before going into the strict writing of that day. I think that helps get back into the flow of the story. I think that's a good comment. And then Stefan asks, I've heard it's normal for an author to get rejected for manuscripts. I'm assuming for traditional publishing. Do you think this is true? Yes, it is true. It's probably more true than it is false. Most people, I would imagine, get rejected for traditional publishing. But you guys know I'm a self-published guy. Okay, so yeah, Mike Bates, thank you. Lo-fi hip hop. There we go. Lo-fi hip hop. That's what was escaping me. All right. Okay, so I do see some more questions, but I want to get into our final writing sprint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the final sprint on, and then I see all of your questions coming in. Oh, and by the way, everyone's doing a great job on word counts, by the way. I'm seeing some people really killing it here. Retheri, 446. Lolo, 369. Ty, 323. Michelle, 663. Great job. Blester Messi, 566. Aubrey, 123. But hey, that's a good number still. It's better than zero. Celinda, 1107. Very nice. And Carbatoria, 358 palabras. All right. Great job, everybody. Okay, so uh, just remember, I will get to the rest of these questions after our session. All right, and let's get at it here. So I'm going to put the timer on the screen. Let's go ahead and let's get started. And it is 11:03. Let's come back at 11:23 and then do some wrap up, and I'll answer any questions everybody has. All right, let's do it. All right, everybody, about 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left, and we will come on back. All right, everybody, we did it. Another power hour in the books. I did 1188. That's my total. I think I only did like 300 or 400. But I'm 1188 for the day, a little bit better than that to the good. So my quota for the day is 2,000 words. So you guys helped me get 2,000 words, or a little bit more than 50% of that ready to go. So that is a good thing for me because I'm supposed to do 2,000 words a day. If I do 2,000 today and 2,000 tomorrow, I'll be done with this book. If I do 2,000 today and then I do another 2,000 today, I'll be done with this book. I'm that close. Like I'm still in the middle of this final battle, and I've just got to figure out this one last thing. If I can figure that out, then this is going to fall like dominoes. All right, so I want to know how everybody did. So while you're all doing that, I'm seeing some additional questions come in. But Mike Bates says 242 words for this sprint with a total of 870 today. Great job, Mike. And thank you for these power hours. Well, I appreciate you all being here. All right. So, questions. Okay, this is one from Katie Sticks. Epidemic Sounds License, that's the company I use for music for my YouTube channel. If you end your subscription, can your alt content can you use the music in perpetuity, or does that have to be taken down? That's a really good question, and it's an important one because when you're streaming or doing any kind of content, you can't use the music off the radio. So I use Epidemic Sounds. I pay about $15 a month for a personal license that allows me to use it on YouTube. And if you read the terms of service for Epidemic Sounds, what they do is they grant you a perpetual license to use any of the music that is on their site as long as the music that you grabbed was available during the term of your license. So basically what you can't do is you can't just continue to use Epidemic Sound songs after your license goes stale, but you just can't continue. You can't go onto the site and download new stuff that popped up after your license. So as long as it was available during your license period, they actually grant you a perpetual license. So you don't need to take it down off of your website. That's one of the reasons I like Epidemic Sounds. Not the cheapest place in town by any means, but they're one of the few. I've heard of YouTubers doing streams and they play music on their streams and the streams get taken down. I've heard of that with several other places. I will not name them. I used to use a few other places in the past. And I didn't want that. I don't want to be doing a stream, and the next thing I know, I have you guys can't see me because it got pulled. So Epidemic Sounds apparently has got pretty good relationship with YouTube, so I don't have to worry as much about that. Okay. Blessed or Messy asks, do you give your editor the first draft after it's written? I noticed that some authors do it that way. Yeah, that's an interesting question, Blessed or Messy. The short answer is no. But the long answer is yes. All right. So here is my process. All right. I write the best book that I can in one draft. Now, writing in one draft does not mean I write sloppy. It does not mean that I blaze through it. I go through my books at a nice clip, but I'm making sure that I'm writing the best words I can the first time. You guys know I don't like to write sloppy. But doing that, what I do is I loop through my book as I'm writing it. So technically, you could say that I'm rewriting the book as I'm writing it. I'm just doing it at the point of writing, not waiting until it's done, letting it sit for a little bit, and then going back through it. So I bet if you looked at all of my novels, even though I technically write them in one draft, I've gone over each part of the novel at least 3 or 4 times. So you could probably make an argument that, if we wanted to be practical, that I'm actually it's what I hand to the editor when I'm done is actually about the 4th draft. So I write the novel, loop back to make sure that I'm constantly staying up on what I wrote, refreshing things, correcting little minor details here and there. And then when I'm done, what I do is I have an editing workflow. So I have an editing process where, and some people say it's overkill, but it works very well for me. I run my manuscript through Microsoft Word Editor, spell checker. Okay, I think everybody does that, right? That's not unique. And then I run the novel through Grammarly, okay, and make corrections, any corrections that Grammarly makes that I agree with. I don't always agree with Grammarly's everything that they do. And then I run the novel through ProWriting Aid, and it's the same process. I found that Grammarly's really good at some things, like with commas. ProWriting Aid is really good at some other things, and so I like to use them both. Both are part of a healthy diet when you're editing, all right? And so then I have a tool that I've done on videos on this channel called Perfect It, and I run the tool through Perfect It. That's like proofreading software. It checks for things that are completely different than ProWriting Aid and Grammarly. And then after I go through Perfect It, I actually have my own proprietary word macros that I have developed, and I run the manuscript through those. And long story short on that, these are Microsoft Word macros are kind of a fancy, kind of boring topic, but they actually can help you catch a lot of different spelling errors and grammar errors that Grammarly, ProWriting Aid, or Microsoft Spell Checker cannot. So I have created a suite of word macros based on my own needs that allow me to catch a lot of things that my editors have caught in the past that have been issues for me. So I run the manuscript through that. Then I send the manuscript to what I call fact checkers. All right. And fact checkers are people that have a certain amount of expertise in an area that I want to learn, or that I want to draw on that expertise. So like, for example, my Chicago Rat Shifter series takes place in Chicago. I've never lived in Chicago, so I needed some Chicago experts who have lived there for a long time to look at some of the Chicago sections and help me out on that. All right. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about here. I'm not a rat biologist, rodent biologist, but I did have a rodent biologist read some of the rat sections in the story to help keep me honest, to make sure that they were hyper accurate. All right. Comes back from my fact checkers. I make those updates. Then it goes to a copy editor. All right. So by the time it gets to the copy editor, I've done a lot of work on it. It's not a rough draft. It's the best draft that I can possibly make it. All right. Then it comes back from the copy editor. Then it goes to a proofreader. All right. And then from the proofread, it goes on. So that's my process of doing it. I don't want people to think that when I say write in one draft or write without an outline, I don't want people to think that I'm just saying, oh yeah, just throw the words down and then publish it. No, you want to write the best possible book you can, but you also want to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. Okay, so long answer to your question. All right. Okay, Lolo asks, how do you write the first acts? They're always the hardest for me, not trying to rush them or slow them down too much. Yeah, it's a good question. That's a unique question. No one's ever asked me that. What helps me with anything when I'm thinking about a bigger problem. So you got the problem of your novel, right? So you want to write your novel. You've already taken the step to divide it into acts, right? And if you can divide it into acts, it makes it a lot easier to think about. So what you can do, again, if you want, maybe this will help you, subdivide your first act into multiple parts. All right, so treat your first act almost like a story in and of itself. General rule of thumb, this is not Michael Laran is saying this. This is not etched on a stone tablet anywhere, but it's probably true that if you pick up some books off the shelf, this would probably be true more often than not. The first act is usually ends when the character makes a decision that puts them on a point of no return. So they go through that door and then the door shuts behind them and then it becomes a wall and they can't go back, right? It's a cheesy metaphor, right? But that's typically where your first act is going to end. So from the opening scene to that point, that's the land of your first act. So if you subdivide that first act into first act, first second act, first third act, first fourth act, how might you think about it? Right? So your first scene, hopefully you have that in your head or you know what that's going to be. Start there and then just work your way up to that. And if you're an outliner, well, then that makes it easy. I just basically did it for you. You just have to plug in and paint by numbers and figure out what goes in the first, each section. But if you're a pantser, then it's a little bit more complicated. But I would just know that that's probably what your brain is going to work you up toward, is that point of no return, and you'll know it when you see it. Okay, that's a good question. That might be something I throw into the writing it without an outline book, because there's a lot more there that I could probably get into. Okay. Travis asks, do you ever speak about your manuscript with others while still in the process of writing? Generally, Travis, no, but I have made an exception for that. So with my first book in the Good Necromancer series, Shadow Deal, I actually did write that book in public. It was behind a free course that I offered to people. It was free at the time, where I just basically invited people to just follow me as I wrote. And what I would do is it was either every day or every chapter I finished, I would actually post the chapter of that book so that people who were following along could see how I was writing. And then what I would do, what I did at the end is, I think I left the unedited original version, and then I showed people how it progressed after each round of editing. And I did that. The course was my Write to Market course. I did that authorlevelup.com/write to market. But generally speaking, I try to keep my stories pretty close to my chest. The main reason for that is because I find that the idea that I start with often isn't the idea that I end with. And so if I start talking about it too soon, I put myself in a corner, and sometimes you can create a marketing mistake because you make people think that the story is something that it ultimately ends up not being. So like with my Chicago Rat Shifter series, I really have not, I've talked about the series, but I really haven't talked that much about it. When I first started it, I knew that it was about a character that can turn into a rat, but I didn't know really anything else about that. So I try to keep everything close to my chest until it's published, and then I can talk about it. I think it's just superstition more than anything else. But I believe that there's bad karma out there, or there's little gremlins out there that come get you if you divulge your information too soon. but there is a way to do it without divulging that info. Okay, so Linda says, oh, this was a commenting to Blessed or Messy. I like to do one pass, either reading it out loud or with a service like Grammarly and such before sending it out to anyone. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I just think it's a show of respect to your editor to send them the cleanest possible manuscript you can. And when I say cleanest, I don't mean be a perfectionist about it. I describe my process of editing. It's one, to make sure that I'm creating the most quality book possible as quickly and efficiently as possible. But also, it's out of consideration to my editor, right? So if I'm making the same mistakes in my manuscript over and over again, that's not my editor's problem. That's on me. And so, how can you find ways to fix those repeat mistakes? Is what I like to argue. So, however you want to do that, if it's reading the book out loud, if it's beta readers, right? I mean, there's no wrong way. There's only your way and the way that works for you. Okay. All right. Okay. TextVet Jeb asks, how can you avoid rewriting? When I rewrite, I can't. I just find so much that I need to rewrite, and I can't not see doing it. Yeah, you know, it's an interesting conundrum, TextVet Jeb, because that's kind of how I felt when I first started. I found that outlining was a useful tool when I first started as a way to help me understand story. But I found that once I started writing more books, I got a lot more comfortable. And I found that I was comfortable enough that the stuff that I was writing in my outline, I didn't really need as much. So I found that over time, and I wrote about, I think it was maybe 10 novels with an outline. I found that with each new novel, I actually didn't need it as much. So maybe that's the case for you, you know, or maybe you're someone who truly needs to be a planner. But the easiest way to avoid rewriting, again, it's sheer mental willpower. If you feel that this path is for you, sheer mental willpower and a willingness and almost a stubbornness to insist on getting the story right when you write it the first time. So let me give you an example. I was writing this morning, and I came to a section in the story where there was a character who appears during the final battle. And this character has only appeared in the novel maybe 2 or 3 times. And I didn't remember what the character's voice sounded like. So what someone else might do is they might just throw something in there and keep writing so that they don't sacrifice speed. What I do is in my outline, so when I write, I'm actually outlining. I know people's heads explode a little bit. It's not really outlining. It's more or less documenting what you're writing as you write it. So your outline is truly an outline. It's just looking behind you, whereas most people use outlining as a tool to help them look forward. So what I do is when I introduce a character or when I'm describing a character or anything, in every chapter I jot down what their characteristics are. So are they wearing a red jacket? What does their voice sound like? In this particular character, when I first introduced them, I jotted down what their voice sounded like. So when I got to that point, I went back to my outline and said, oh, yep, okay, the voice sounds like this. And then I went back to the manuscript, went on. When you're writing in your manuscript and you come across a section where I don't really know what this building is supposed to look like, some people might just throw a description in there and fix it later. What I do is I stop, I go to Google, and I try to figure out what this building is going to look like, or I try to find that right word. I try to do that research in the moment as I need it. And so what you'll find is that actually saves you time over the period of a book, and you have to do less rewriting at the end. So if anything I said just resonated with you, fix the problems that come up in your manuscript as they come up, and that will eliminate the need for you to do a lot of rewriting. Okay, Lolo asks, do you know if there are themes beside dark and light mode on Scrivener iOS? My short answer to that, Lolo, is no. I believe light and dark are the only versions, but we're due for another Scrivener iOS update. I don't know if it's in the cards, but it would be nice to have a few other options. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's see what's going on here. All right, a lot of comments coming in here. All right. Okay, here we go. I love all the comments, everybody. So good stuff. All right. Blessed or Messy, 329 words. My draft is done. My cozy mystery is 56,714. It has been a journey. Great job. Great job. All right. Lolo says, I didn't work on my manuscript this time, but I did flesh out 2 of my main subplots. Well, hey, I would chalk that up as a victory. All right. Travis, thank you. I really enjoy your power hours. Well, thank you. And TextVet Jeb, 423 this round. Great job. Carvatoria, 399. Nice work. Retheri, 720. Darren Blake says, I have no idea how much I did. I write in Notepad. Well, hey, you can always copy and paste from Notepad into somewhere that does all that. Okay. Retheri asks a question. How do you come up with interesting puzzles, mental and physical, for characters to solve? I'm not smart enough to design good ones myself. Oh, I doubt that, Retheri. Are there any sites to take inspiration from? What I would say, Retheri, is if you're struggling to come up with, when you say puzzles, I'm just presuming that you're talking about things that come up over the course of a novel that a character has to solve, right? The easiest way to get better at that is just to keep writing. The more you write, you'll find the more creative you get. Like I'm writing, I think this is my 32nd novel right now, and I'm still blown away that I can still come up with interesting puzzles that aren't repeats of what I did in the past. So, and a lot of that has to do with reading. Read as much as possible. Just find a way to keep that inspiration coming in so you can fill your creative well. So if that's reading, if it's watching movies to be inspired, if it's going to new places, always keep those inputs coming in. And then you'll find that if you do that enough over time, when it's time for you to come up with something and be able to pull it out like that, it's a lot easier. All right, it's a lot easier. Okay. Garance George, 318, nice work. HR Wash, 861 for the whole session. Celinda, killing it at 3,225 words for the day. That is awesome. And then Ty, 425 and 988 total. Very, very nice. So let's see. Oh, Maya Lemaire, I feel like I got here at the end. Yeah, we're not at the end. We're not quite at the end yet, Maya, but I will be doing this again the first weekend in September, first Saturday. So I'll be sure to share that date when it comes out, and I'll give that to you before we go here. And let's see here. Arjuna Solis, nice. Have a nice day, author level uppers. Yes, thank you for coming. And all right. So Michelle, first power hour, total of 1,967 words for the day. Very nice job. All right. Okay, another question here. What are your thoughts on publishing under an alias? Also, is ML McKnight an alias? Yes. And when you say alias, I'll substitute your question a little bit with the word pen name or pseudonym. I publish under pseudonyms. How I do it is probably not how I do it is one way of doing it. There are other people who take another approach. So what some people would say is just publish everything under one pen name. And that's what I did for a really long time. Probably my first 30 books, I published under one pen name. It was under Michael Laron. And I had no problem with it. It was easier because I only had to maintain one website. What I found, and this is just Michael Laron's opinion, what I found is that I had a difficult time when someone came to my website for the first time because I wrote science fiction, I wrote fantasy, I wrote writing books, and people would get analysis paralysis. And I could see it in the data on my website. People would go to the books page, and that would be the last page they go to, right? And so the idea that I had, and the thing I think that helped me was, how can I figure out, if you're a multiple genre writer, how can I figure out how to get the right reader to the right book at the right time? And the decision that I made was, it's probably a good idea to have different pen names so that when a reader stumbles across me for the first time, they see books that are branded very similarly. So ML McKnight is my urban fantasy pen name. So moving forward, any urban fantasy that I write is going to be under ML McKnight. One, this allows me to make all the covers look the same. And the ML McKnight books, so my Rat Shifter series, my Good Necromancer series, they're a little bit darker than my Michael Laran stuff. And so I give that its own brand. My writing books is under ML Ron. So that way, people who like my fiction don't automatically stumble across my writing books. And then I've still got my Michael Laran series, with my Michael Laran pseudonym, which I do plan on using in the future. So, that's one way. That's one way that I do it. The downside to that is that I have to manage multiple websites, which is kind of a pain in the neck. But it's good. I think personally, and the data bears it out, that it's better for all of you that when you're coming on one of my websites, you kind of know what you're getting. Like I'm setting the expectation. All right. So it's just my experience answer to that question. Okay. All right, Ruth. Yes. All right. 696 for the session. And yes, enjoy Epidemic Sound. They've got some pretty good music on there. Okay. And Blesser Messi says, wow, regarding macros. Yeah, I've been promising that I'm going to do a live stream on that at some point. One of my books that I've got slated to write, I don't know if it'll end up happening in beast mode, just because of the way things are going right now. I may not write as many as I wrote before, but I do plan on writing a book on editing. And it's not going to be like the end all be all to editing, but it'll be my approach to editing. And I do plan on covering word macros quite a bit in that. But yeah, at some point I'm going to do a podcast on it. I'm just trying to figure out the right angle to do it without putting people to sleep and without it seeming too technical. Because when people see word macros for the first time, they just kind of freeze up. And so I don't want that. I want to do it. I want to be thoughtful about it in a way that's going to help people. Okay. KT asks, do you compensate your fact checkers? Yes, I do. I compensate them based on the length of the page or the number of pages. So basically, I take the rate, and I won't share what the rates are, but I take the rates that I would typically pay a copy editor. I'm not going to pay any more. I'm not going to pay that. But what I will do is, to save costs, is what I do is I don't send them the whole book. All right, and that's one thing that makes me a little bit different. I send them excerpts of what I want them to check. So for the most part, I'm sending maybe 20, 30 pages to a fact checker. I think the last fact checker I paid them, I think it was like $1 per page or something like that. I might have paid anywhere from $30 to $50. But it depends on what it is. If it's something relatively routine, that's different. It kind of depends on the level of expertise too. So if someone has a specific, like very specific level of expertise that I can't get anywhere else, then I'm open to paying a little bit more. But I compensate them fairly for their time. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort on their part. All right. So let's see. The Level Uppers is a nice title for a sci-fi story. That could be. It could be. You are welcome to take that. Okay. And KT asks, how do you approach someone to be your fact checker? What I do is I rely on my network. So if there's someone that I know that has that particular skill, I'll offer to say, hey, I got this thing. I need it by this date. Would you be willing to do it? More often than not, though, I go to a site called Upwork.com. I just I post a job and it says, I got this novel. I need someone who has lived in the city of X or who has experience in rodent biology or whatever, to review excerpts from the book and just give me some feedback in the form of Microsoft Word track changes. All right. And you'd be amazed. I mean, with my Chicago one, I got probably like 100 or 200 different proposals of people who were interested in it. The biology one was a little bit tougher, but I was able to find someone. So it's not hard. It's not hard. You just gotta ask, and I find that there's very few people who do this. So when I post these sorts of jobs and stuff, it stands out because they're like, wow, this is intriguing. All right. All right, let's see. Carbitoria, forgive my ignorance, but what's a pantser? A pantser is someone who does not write with an outline. So a plotter is someone who outlines their novel before they write. Pantser is someone who writes without an outline at all, by the seat of their pants. Okay. All right, let's see here. Oh, and everybody else was kind of helping me with that. Okay, Ty asked, do you have a book or some resources on writing character voices? I don't at the time, Ty. I'll have to take that down as something to consider in the future. I did have a book that I was going to write a while back on characters, and I think voice was a little bit part of that, but nothing specific just yet. All right, let's see. Yes, Keto. I know you've been asking me for this. A video on time management. I'm gonna do it. It's on my list. I just Oh, okay. I want to ask you for a video on time management, which you already have, but I specifically want to know how you did all your homework for law school in 2 weeks. Yeah, that might be a trade secret. I don't know if I can share that just yet. All right. Yeah, thank you, TextVet Jeb. First Saturday and Labor Day. Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend. So, what I might do is push it back to the second Saturday. What we might do is the second Saturday and the third Saturday. So they might be back to back. Yeah, that's the problem. Anytime you do a regular occurrence, there's always something that kind of throws a wrench in it. Let's see. Celsi asks, if you write under a pen name, is there a way that you can market them in your physical presence? Yeah. I mean, Michael Aran is not my real name, but when I go to places, I introduce myself as Michael Aran, and it's fine. And it just kind of is what it is. So yeah, don't let a pen name stop you from going in public. You know. All right. Ty asks another question. Do you always use beta readers? Do you think you need them for fiction? I don't always use them. I use them. I'm more likely to use them with a book one of a series. Do I think they're essential, or do you need to use them? It depends. It depends on what your goals are. I think every story is different. There are some stories that kind of grow legs of their own, and they have a lot of tentacles, and sometimes it can be really helpful to do that. So if you ever feel like you're losing grip of the story, like in terms of keeping all the details straight, then yeah, I think a beta reader could be very, very helpful in helping you keep those details straight. Here's the problem with beta readers. I love beta readers, but the timeline is always the concern, right? So you can give a book to a beta reader. You almost have to be really intentional about how you approach it, because what can end up happening is two different things. You send a book to a beta reader, but then life happens, so then they don't get you the feedback. You don't end up getting the feedback. That's a problem. So then you have to find multiple beta readers just in case one or two of them falls through. 3 to 5 is kind of my magic number. But then the other problem is getting the feedback on time. It's because typically beta readers are not compensated. You can fix this problem if you're able to do it by paying your beta readers just a little bit of money, and that will solve your problem and hopefully help you avoid that. But yeah, I mean, I would, if you've never used a beta reader before, I would highly recommend using them for your next book. I think they do a really good job. The key is just in selecting the right people and making sure that you're clear with your expectations, because nothing will derail your book's publication date faster than not getting it back from a beta reader on time. Okay, let's see. Sonic Supa 99 asks, do you know why so many underrated authors don't make the New York Times bestseller list? Well, the New York Times bestseller list is very that's not a metric of success. You can sell a lot of books, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And there's very strict guidelines for being able to hit the New York Times bestseller list. And the system has been rigged so much that the term really doesn't mean what it used to mean. So yeah, I just don't, to me, that's not something I chase. I really don't care if I never become a New York Times bestseller. it just is what it is. But I wouldn't use that as a marker of someone's success. All right. Travis says, I met a man that asked me to be his ghostwriter for his memoir. Within the same conversation, he said it will cost me $25,000 to get on the New York Times bestseller list. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I can, if I had $25,000 laying around, I'm not going to throw it toward a New York Times bestseller list. I mean, that in and of itself is the problem, right? The fact that you can buy your way onto a list, allegedly. I've never explored that route, but it's kind of a hidden secret that that's something that you can do. And that's not an indictment on the New York Times. There are just ways that you can game the system and get around it. I don't think it's necessarily the New York Times' fault, but yeah, I mean that should tell you everything you need to know right there about whether it's effective or not. Yeah, sure. I mean, if I became a New York Times bestseller tomorrow, would I be happy about it? You bet I would, but I'm not going to actively try to do it. I think the mistake people make is they think that getting that title will change everything for them, and then when they get it, they realize it doesn't. It just doesn't. Yeah. And then TextVet Jeb says that list doesn't track sales. I don't know what they use. I think they do track sales, but it's a very specific type of sale. Like it can't be just Amazon. It has to include, I think, print and ebook. And I think it has to be at least multiple different retailers. Again, I don't know. I just don't know the particular details. All right. But yeah, I'm not down for gaming any lists. It feels like this comes back every few years. There's somebody that figures out a new way to do it, and then all these people start trying to do it. And people have been trying to get on the New York Times. Indie authors have been trying to get on the New York Times list since I started. And I just think there are other ways you can spend your time and energy. All right. Well, everybody, that looks like we got through all of our questions here. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I will. I'll send out I'll confirm the date of the next Power Hour, and we will go from there. So thank you for showing up, everybody. Enjoy your writing. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you next time.